Good evening, everybody. Adequate notice of this meeting, as required by the Open Public Meetings Act, was provided through the posting, mailing, and filing of the annual notice of regularly scheduled meetings of the Town Council on December 13th, 2022. The notice was, on that date, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, provided to the Westfield Leader and the Star Ledger, and filed with the clerk of the Town of Westfield. Mrs. Lashy, may I have a roll call?
Mayor Brindle?
Here.
Councilmembers Hadgood?
Here.
Parmalee?
Here.
LaGripa?
Here.
Katz?
Here.
Mackey?
Here.
Contract?
Here.
Dario?
Here.
Root?
Here.
Please rise for the invocation, which will be given by Councilman Contract, and remain standing for the salute.
We gather to make decisions for our community. May we use only our best skills and judgment, keeping ourselves impartial and neutral as we consider the merits and pitfalls of each matter that is placed before us, and always act in accordance with what is best for our community and our fellow citizens. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jim, comments?
Thank you, Mayor. A couple quick comments tonight. This time of year, again, we just got word this past week that we have been named a Tree City USA, again, for the third year in a row, which is great. Again, we take care of, yes, good to the town. So with that, Arbor Day Foundation, of course, this is the third year we've been named the Tree City, and that basically means that we're obviously really caring and protecting our tree canopy and our trees of the town. Thanks to the Tree Preservation Commission, thanks to Public Works Forestry Division particularly, that's, you know, you have to give data to them about how many trees we're planting, how we're managing our forestry division, and we've been doing a great job with that. So a couple things, we have a tree plaque. We received them on our first year of award to now 3 years ago. It's in the hallway here. It's been updated, so we're always a year behind, so you give them the data at the end of the year. So this is for 2022. And part of the requirements is you give them your Arbor Day information about what you did on Arbor Day and what trees you planted, etc. So we'll be applying again at the end of 23. And part of what we're going to submit is what's going to happen this Friday. This Friday is your Arbor Day commemorative tree planting at Jefferson School. Last year we had it at Tamako School, working with Principal Dulks there. This year we're working with Principal Hung at Jefferson School. Greg O'Neill and his crew will be at the school on Friday. I believe it's 10 or 10:30 in the morning, with classes outside to not only see the tree planted, but learn how public works equipment gets used. Everyone loves the chainsaw and the truck more than the tree planting, but nonetheless, tree will be planted, and Greg and his crew will be out there on Friday, and I think Councilman Katz is going to be there to do a proclamation as well. So it's actually very exciting. So Jefferson School Friday, and again, just to thank you to the Tree Preservation Commission, council members, as well as Greg O'Neill and Robbie Costiello from the tree divisions. That's a good accolade to get every year. A couple other things, paving. We mentioned last meeting, so we are in the process of getting our bid specs together for our paving jobs now that our capital budget's been approved. That'll be done in the next few weeks, and we'll be looking to pave over the course of the summer and the fall. The utility paving has already started. If you live in the South Chestnut, South Euclid area, you know that very well, Lenox Avenue area. So they are starting their first two phases, which started late last week and will go through the next couple of weeks. Of the areas they finished their trenching work at the end of last year and we're letting settle until this year. So that's the whole grid about, it's South Euclid, Lenox, Stanley, Archibald, Arlington, St. Mark's, Tremont, Fairmont, Hillcrest, Cornwall, 4th, and South Chestnut. Either whole roads or sections of roads. As they proceed through the year, they'll be doing grids like that as they finish up the work or and so on. So we'll be tracking that. Right now, the Nixle alerts are going out every morning. And again, I remind the public, please sign up for Nixle if you haven't already. Every single morning, there's a notation that goes out about what roads will be closed so you can plan your day. And again, for those people that have more time on town roads being paved, if you're looking to do a generator or convert from oil to gas, please contact the engineering office now so we can plan to get that curb or road work done prior to road paving being done this summer. Utility jobs have been waiting since last year, so we don't have much time to make some pre-plans on those roads. But on the town paving roads, which are listed on our website, you can make those changes and the town engineering office will help you do that. And lastly, just second quarter taxes, May 1st. So reminding the public they're due, and of course the normal 10-day grace period holds it for that as well. So unless there's any questions, that's all my comments tonight. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank
Jim,
you.
just one, thank you for getting the stripes done under the trestle on Central Avenue, or thank you, Chief, that
No,
was
yeah,
finally done.
again, I'll say thank you, Mark. I know Chief Badalore and I contacting the county, took them a while, but they got it done. So it's helpful to people who need help staying in the lanes, so thank you.
Thank you.
And before I go into opening remarks, I'm actually going to begin with a proclamation for Parkinson's Awareness Month. So Barbara, you want to come up? Hello, Barbara. How are you? Good, nice to see you too. I had the great pleasure of walking with the Parkinson's Awareness Group, right? In Midweston last weekend, right? Was it Monday? Oh, gosh, time flies. On a beautiful Monday afternoon. We had a great time. It is Parkinson's Awareness Month. We've got a proclamation for you. Whereas Parkinson's disease is the second most common neurodegenerative brain disorder in the United States, with symptoms that vary person to person may include tremors, difficulty with balance, swallowing and speaking, slowness of movement, cognitive impairment, and a variety of other non-motor symptoms. And whereas it is estimated that approximately 1 million people in the United States live with Parkinson's disease, and the prevalence is expected to rise to 1.2 million by 2030. And whereas nearly 90,000 people in the U.S. are diagnosed with Parkinson's disease each year, a steep increase from the previous estimate of 60,000 diagnoses each year. And whereas research suggests the cause of Parkinson's disease is a combination of genetic and environmental factors, but the exact cause and progression of the disease is still unknown, and there is no objective test or biomarker for the disease. And whereas there is no standard treatment for this disease, treatment for each person is based upon his or her symptoms and may include medication, surgery, and lifestyle modifications, such as more rest and exercise, but no treatment as yet will reverse the effects of the disease. And whereas, according to the Michael J. Fox Foundation, the total cost of Parkinson's disease to individuals, families, and the U.S. government totals nearly $52 billion a year, which includes $26.5 billion of non-medical costs like missed work, lost wages, early forced retirement, and family caregiver time, demonstrating the devastating effects the disease has on a person's finances and ability to participate in the labor market. And whereas Parkinson's disease affects not only the Parkinson's patients, but the patient's loved ones and caregivers. And whereas volunteers, researchers, caregivers, and medical professionals are working to improve the quality of life for persons living with Parkinson's disease and their families. And whereas increased education and research are desperately needed to find more effective and lasting treatments and ultimately a cure for this debilitating disease. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, Mayor Shelley Brindle, in recognition of the need to bring awareness to the plight of Parkinson's patients and their families, we hereby designate the month of April of 2023 as Parkinson's Awareness Month in the town of Westfield. Be it further proclaimed that I hereby encourage my fellow residents to visit the Parkinson's Disease Foundation website at parkinsons.org and the Michael J. Fox Foundation at michaeljfox.org for more information about the disease and how you can help. So, do you have any comments?
Yes, I do, because since that was written, there is now a biomarker assay to diagnose Parkinson's disease. Michael J. Fox Foundation announced that just about a week and a half ago.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
So we're very excited about that.
And it does seem like everybody, I know people with Parkinson's and friends and family members with Parkinson's, it didn't seem like that was the case 1 year ago.
No, not at all. So this is exciting news.
That's terrific.
It will actually be used to diagnose people before they actually start symptoms.
That's terrific. Well, let's get a picture and then that's terrific. Okay, so on to tonight's agenda. I do want to say good evening and just remind everybody that public comment is only accepted in person, but of course we're live streaming and you can always watch the replay. Before we get to the agenda tonight, I do want to thank many of the employees of town and the volunteers who delivered a wide variety of events over the past week. It's been a very, very busy few weekends with more to come. So this morning, we actually attended the Crossing Guard breakfast hosted by Breaks. It's one of the actually nicest and sweetest events I think that we have all year. And we really had the pleasure of thanking our dedicated crossing guards in person for the work that they do to keep our community safe. ACMS, who manages the town's program, and as an aside is also now managing Scotch Plains' program, reports that they have been operating at full staffing capacity throughout the school year, which includes sufficient substitutes to fill absences. And so as a result, our police department, many of you remember, was filling, I don't know, up to 15, sometimes 20 positions daily. They no longer are spending their valuable time and resources in crossing guard posts, but instead on their primary law enforcement issues, which is exactly what we wanted and anticipated all along. So thank you, Chief Badalora, and to the entire police department, along with the Westfield Public Schools for their show of support at this morning's breakfast. And it was just a really, it was great to see this program seem to be hitting its stride, which was terrific. Also, there are many events that happened around town this week, this past few weeks, I should say, including many Autism Awareness Month activities, flag football mini camps for special need kids, the inaugural girls season of girls flag football, the free market from the green team, the DWC's Midday Madness Clue Hunt, and more. There were so many residents, visitors out on a beautiful weekend, so it's what makes it such a great place. And I want to remind everybody about some upcoming events. The Friends of Westfield Memorial Library, they're hosting their annual book sale Wednesday through Sunday. On Saturday, very importantly, the Westfield Mental Health Council is going to be hosting a day of activities to kick off Mental Health Awareness Month. Following the successful walk they had last year, there'll be a walk for cake in Mindwaskin Park from 10:30 to noon, and a mental health fair, which is going to be held across the street at the Bauer branch of the Westfield Area Y, right on Broad Street. Do you have anything
Mayor,
to add?
if I can just
Of
correct you,
course.
it's Sunday.
Oh, did I say Saturday?
You did,
Oh,
but it is
so
Sunday.
thank you.
The times are right, though.
Oh,
Walk for
Sunday,
Cake,
sorry.
10:30 to 12.
Sunday,
and-
10:30 to 12.
And the
Thank
fair
you.
is 11 to 2.
Oh, good, I think Sunday's
Please come.
supposed, Sunday's
There's a
supposed
lot
to
of
be-
great stuff
A lot of good stuff, and a lot of high school kids hopefully will be there helping out. And on Saturday night, a very fun event planned at the Armory. The American Legion is hosting a great music festival from 6 to 10, live music. I think the Commitments are playing, amongst others, artisans, food trucks, and more. All proceeds are going to the American Legion Hall and the renovation of that hall to include 22 units for homeless veterans. And there is one more big event rounding out Autism Awareness Month, and I'm going to hand it over to Councilman Mackey to share us the news on that.
Yeah, tomorrow night at the Rialto, we are hosting a movie about the first man ever diagnosed with autism. And we will have a panel discussion with Keith and Ann Wargo. Keith is the CEO of Autism Speaks. On Sunday, there's a movie called Rocco Up about a young man who was with autism who was learning how to surf during the pandemic, and a documentarian caught this and did a really moving 15-minute short. I really encourage everybody to come. The lobby has been curated with work from artists on the spectrum, and it is absolutely heartwarming and outstanding, and it is really worth your time to come and see this work and come see these movies. There's no cost, but we do require registration as space is limited, and I'm just really very grateful for the community, the autism community, for being so forthright and bringing these opportunities so everybody can share and show our support for people with autism.
Is the artwork available for exhibit outside of the movies?
They do have some hours during the weekend that it'll be open just to come and see the
And check
artwork.
it.
And it's, if you're in town, you really should pop in and see it. And you
terrific.
don't need to reserve a spot for that.
That's great. So regarding tonight's agenda, we do have a number of legislative items. Importantly, very importantly, we're voting on the adoption of the municipal budget and the Downtown Westfield Corporation SID budget. We're also voting on a resolution to approve a place-to-place liquor license transfer from the liquor basket that is currently on Quimby to a new House of Wine location on North Avenue, which has been approved by the New Jersey State ABC, and we anticipate House of Wine to be opening on Mother's Day. And on the good news, there is a terrific, great things happening on the historic preservation front. To kick off Historic Preservation Month in May, tonight we'll be introducing ordinances on first reading to historically designate 3 homes in Stoneleigh Park. I'd like to thank the owners, Mary Lee Swatner of 3 Stoneleigh Park, Aaron and Donna Keith of 5 Stoneleigh Park, and Donald Ferrer and Katie Spikes of 18 Stoneleigh Park, for voluntarily designating their homes. It will bring our total number of properties designated under this administration to 13, which we're very proud of. It's the most in town history. And you know, I think it's a good opportunity to recall that when we updated the historic preservation ordinance in 2019, some had expressed concerns that the town would begin involuntarily designating private historic homes. In fact, what we have found is that the ordinance has had quite the opposite effect and actually is doing what was always originally intended. When we adopted this ordinance over some very vocal objections, the town was making a public statement that this administration and our community value historic preservation. In absence of that commitment from the town, why would a homeowner choose to designate their home? To make sure we walk the walk, the town also designated many of our own properties, such as Triangle Park and the Reeve House. And these important steps were necessary to establish a community culture that prioritizes historic preservation and puts our money where our mouth is, so to speak. And tonight's designations are proof that they're bearing fruit. Homeowners are now willingly and voluntarily designating their homes with the great persistence and support from our Historic Preservation Commission, leaving a lasting legacy that will forever preserve these amazing pieces of Westfield's treasure history. And also on the historic preservation front, we're also introducing updates to that ordinance from 2019, which now reflects input from the State Historic Preservation Office to enable our Historic Preservation Commission to qualify for certified local government status. Additional updates include clarification of the role of the HPC relative to other governing bodies, such as the Town Council and Planning and Zoning Boards, which was not explicit in the original ordinance. So all of these comments in the revised ordinance will be forwarded to the Planning Board for their review and comment. So it's a great night for historic preservation, and we look forward to celebrating all month long in May. And I see Jenny Jaruzelski over there from HPC representing. We're also introducing a number of ordinances on first reading out of the Code Review and Town Property Committee that updates varied recommendations from our master plan reexamination. And it's a continuous process that we undergo to ensure consistency with that document and with the established standards and best practices in the other communities. We actually like to say oftentimes people do a master plan or reexamination, it sits on a shelf. We're very fortunate that we have Don Samet, who is being very diligent about ensuring the recommendations actually are being acted upon. And so those are some of the things we're seeing tonight. I'm going to hand it over to Councilman Parmalee to talk about them specifically.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. The first 3 of these ordinances amend the land use ordinance with revisions to definitions found in our land use ordinance based upon recommendations from the master plan reexamination for the following terms: bay window, building eave height, and swimming pool. There's also ordinances on first reading revising permitted conditional uses, retaining wall provisions and design standards. These ordinances will be forwarded to the Planning Board for their review and comment. Of course, we have to thank Don Samet for all of his hard work in putting all of that together. Finally, with respect to stormwater management, tonight we're going to introduce an amended stormwater and flood plan management ordinance, which is being required by the state of New Jersey for all municipalities after the NJDEP's model ordinances and subsequent local flood damage prevention ordinances were audited and found to be inconsistent with the National Flood Insurance Program, the NFIP, those regulations. The new ordinance provides for better coordination between the NFIP, the New Jersey Flood Hazard Area Control Act, and Uniform Construction Code regulations. It's also more specific to riverine flooding and allows communities to utilize best available data to regulate floodplains. This new ordinance also provides for higher fines for non-compliance.
All right, thank you very much.
All
And
right.
with that, let's get to the agenda for tonight. Ms. Sloshy, are there any advertised hearings?
Yes, Mayor, there are two advertised hearings. The first is public hearing for the 2023 Special Improvement District Budget. Anyone wishing to be heard on the 2023 Special Improvement District budget, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, Mayor, you may close the hearing.
This hearing is closed.
Next is the public hearing for the 2023 municipal budget. Anyone wishing to be heard on the 2023 municipal budget, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. Seeing no one, Mayor, you may close the hearing.
This hearing is closed. May I have a motion to approve the minutes from the Town Council Conference and regular meetings of April 11, 2023? So moved by Councilman LaGrepo, second. Second by Councilman Mackey. Any discussion? All in favor? Yes. Opposed? This motion is carried. Now it's time for open discussion by citizens. Anyone may come up to the microphone and speak to the council on any subject on which we have jurisdiction. Please state your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 5 minutes.
Good evening, Frank Fusaro, 422 Stanley Avenue. I'm here to address the proposed rooftop deck zoning ordinance. I'd like to offer the following concerns and pose the following questions with respect to that.
Mr. Fasaro, just before you go forward, that is not on the, that's been removed from the agenda tonight. You're more than welcome to comment, but it's not being voted on this evening.
Okay, would you like to hear my comments now or at the next meeting?
It's up to you, but I just wanted to let you know.
Okay, that's fine. I'm going to give you my comments and then I will come to the next meeting when it is on the agenda and reiterate them. My comments are as follows. I'd like to know if this zoning ordinance pertains to all structures, both new and existing in the town of Westfield, or is it being proposed specifically for the new One Westfield Place and Sophia developments? As you know, Westfield is not the Jersey Shore where rooftop decks are permitted to allow views of the ocean and bay areas. There are numerous safety issues associated with this proposed ordinance, including but not limited to fire hazards caused by cooking equipment, electrical devices in wet areas, candles, tiki torches, tobacco smoking, etc., along with the fact that most, if not all of these structures are or will be constructed with combustible materials such as wood framing. I'd like to know, is the fire department equipped to fight a rooftop fire, and what is the escape plan for those on the roof? This is one of the reasons why our current zoning ordinance limits the heights of most buildings in town to 40 feet. Pools, hot tubs, deck furniture, grills, and outdoor kitchens on roofs of buildings are completely out of character with the town of Westfield. In addition to the nuisance issues that this proposed ordinance will create, there will be privacy issues that will need to be addressed. As you know, our ordinance requires all pools in town to be surrounded by a 6-foot-high solid fence for privacy. Will this screening be required for the rooftop, hot tubs, and how will the adjacent lower structures' privacy be protected? As you know, rooftop deck furniture can become airborne during stormy weather. This too will create a major safety issue. Allowing rooftop decks to be constructed with the hours of use between 7 a.m. and 11 p.m. as proposed will create a tremendous burden and nuisance on the neighboring properties, since we all know that outdoor parties will be held at these locations with loud music, bands, and the possibility of intoxicated partygoers. Has this proposed ordinance been discussed with the fire chief and the EMS workers who will have to rescue any persons in distress from the roof of these structures? If so, are they in support of this ordinance? I implore you to reconsider this proposal, which will be detrimental to our town and our community. Thank you for your time.
Good evening, Lori Korecki, Charles Street, Westfield. And I understand that this ordinance is not going to be addressed this evening, but since I'm here and it is of great concern to me, and I also raised it to all of you, including the mayor, in February in an email to me, to all of you from me, regarding the plan that was proposed by the developer. And I concur with Mr. Frisaro that I do believe that this is a radical change in our town. I'm very concerned about the fact that the new building anyway, could be 40 feet, which is already hovering above most of the residences in the area. And then the strung lights will be another 8 feet above that. And they're permitted to be on, according to this ordinance, if the ordinance is in fact not adjusted, to be lit and noise and cooking and audio and visual to continue until 11 p.m. at night. Now, as you know, the stadium is not even permitted to continue its lights, its noise, its audio until those hours. So I do feel that this is certainly a drastic change for our town, and also it appears that the ordinance can be townwide, not even for the new properties. So I beseech you, and I do thank Ms. Habgood for responding to my email in February regarding this, in which she said that the details of the buildings are not final yet, and the planning board is very careful about noise and lights. And as you can see, the plan restricts timing and use. Well, the timing is not that restrictive as far as I'm concerned for 11 p.m. And my concern about the planning board is once you change this ordinance, they will say that, well, it complies with the town ordinance, just as they have complied with new zoning that you have created. So I'm not sure where to go with this, but Ms. Habgood did suggest that residents should address this council, and that's why I'm here tonight. So thank you very much for your time and for hearing me.
Thank you.
Hi, Bob McNamara, 603 Lawrence Avenue. And I just wanted to pick up on what Frank and Lori had said and just mention that the section that's referred here is Article 13, and it actually applies to all residential zones. So it is not just the CBD or GB1. Article 13 is all residential zones. So this means that any place in the town that's residential would be able to have these rooftop hot tubs, pools, all of these things. I think we need to actually tailor this to a specific need and not just make it a blanket for all of the town. Thank you.
Carla Bonacci, 603 Lawrence Avenue. I'm going to comment or talk about all the building ordinance changes that you were putting forth, whether it's a bay window, a roof, the building standards. My first thought was that it would have been really nice if you had posted a red line document so that it would be easy for us to read what the differences are versus having to go into the existing ordinance, pull it, and do a compare. So in my professional experience, red lines are an accepted way to make changes. Everyone can then understand it. Specifically regarding the building design standards, where item 9, recommendation of the ULCL, where you want to eliminate monotony and discord, I would ask you why you're doing this now after 2 years without any design guidelines. As Mike Doherty has said once, there should be no half measures. Typically, when one creates standards, one creates design guidelines. Otherwise, this document has no teeth. Doesn't mean anything. It can be interpreted any way. The other thing I noticed in doing the compare is that in section 10.15, the Architectural Review Board was eliminated. So the only way for someone looking at the ordinance and to evaluate it in today's ordinance is that the Architectural Review Board could be called upon to evaluate something. You've taken that out, so I don't know how you're evaluating whether something complies as of right. I suppose only if it came to you as a variance, and I don't know how you would determine that. The other thing I noticed is that there was a lot of mention about landscaping and buffering in the existing building standards, section 10.15, and all of that has been removed. And I would ask you why. Because a lot of our properties in town, what's special about Westfield is that we have low building coverage and high open space coverage. It's actually why people like Westfield, trees and open space, and it's all been removed, and I don't know why, so maybe you can explain that. It also goes against green concepts, so maybe it's just an oversight. And those are my main concerns. I'm sure there are many more, but it's often difficult to read this when we get it on a Sunday afternoon and you have a meeting on a Tuesday, and we're trying to really understand what you're putting forth and what your comprehensive vision is. Because right now I don't see it. Thank you.
Dr. Michael Armento, 30 Sanders Circle, Ward 2 Republican candidate for Town Council. You mentioned we are keeping the historic nature of the town. One Westfield Place demolishes that. Today I voted for the increase in the school budget. As you have stated, and as I know, the school budget is always funded. However, with the taxes from a specific, with standard taxes, a specific portion is set aside for the school budget. The income from the pilot project is used at the discretion of the town council. There's no guarantee it will go towards the school budget, and if not, it falls to the taxpayers. So in the future, if the town council decides not to use the funds from the pilot, an increase in the education budget falls to us taxpayers. I will briefly comment on the rooftop deck, since I just found out, while sitting here, it was taken off the agenda. Mr. Fazzaro eloquently stated many significant concerns. This should not be allowed. It should not be back on the agenda. There should be no rooftop decks. Basically, once again, Streetworks is having you cater to their needs. I assume that the rooftop decks are similar to the Vermilla, having large buildings with fire pits and to keep the occupants happy. Again, not helping the town of Westfield. Finally, I commend Mayor Brindle for facilitating yet another lawsuit against Westfield. Your tenure seems to be marred by division, discord, and discontent. As I have previously stated, if you had taken a pause, which Mr. LaGrippo had previously suggested, the town could come together and mutually agreed upon a satisfactory plan, but you decided not to. Thank you.
Anybody else? Hearing none, I close this portion of the meeting. And for those of you that came to speak about the rooftop ordinance, it is being further reviewed by the Code Review Committee, so some of these, some amendments I presume are going to be made based on what's in there. But I just want to make sure that everybody is aware that there is already allowance of commercial rooftops in our CBD. That was an ordinance that was passed well over 2 years ago. So, many of the concerns you raised, Mr. Fazzaro, would also be consistent with commercial rooftops. And they have all been vetted and approved by all the necessary entities, including the fire department. So consistent with commercial, I think anything that would allow residential rooftop would be under the same criteria of the ordinance that has already been approved by this council. I think it might have been 3 years ago. So it's, the residential side was meant to be consistent with that, and it is absolutely intended to be just within the central business district, so as indicated, but the code review will review that and report back at a subsequent meeting. God bless you. And Ms. Bonacci, Mr. Salmon isn't here, and he would be the one to more specifically address, I think, your comments, as I think I said at the beginning. All the things that were being introduced tonight are to bring us in compliance or in support of the recommendations that came out of the Master Plan REX. And I would suggest if you have specific comments on those, that you should reach out to Don, and I'm sure he could answer your questions specifically. And lastly, Mr. Armento, I know that you, I'm sorry, Dr. Armento, I know you bring up, and many talk about the school budget, of course, is an important vote today, and the pilot. I just want to remind everybody that the pilot for One Westfield Place isn't projected to be stabilized until 2030. That's in 7 years. There's a lot can happen in 7 years related to our budget and the school budget. There could be a significant increase in school and state aid. We could have some significant challenges in terms of unforeseen challenges. So even the school board would agree that it would make sense for us to see and work together to understand what the needs are as we move forward. I have said repeatedly, and we have all agreed, and the school board will, an agreement. I saw Dr. Gonzalez today, and we met with them last week, that we are fully committed to help them in their capital project needs. They're going through a strategic plan, as many of you know now, and we'll be in a better position to understand what those long-term needs are once that's complete. But there are no concerns on their end that we're not going to work together to deliver what the schools need. And so there's no concern on our end either. But we all agree 7 years is a long time away, and I think we're committed to working together to make sure that our needs are met. So with that, let's see, let's move on to bills and claims. Councilwoman Hapgood.
Mayor, if I could just address Ms. Korecki's comment, just to clarify a little bit about how the process works. So the ordinance changes related to land use that are on the agenda tonight, we will vote on. And if positively voted on, they will go to the planning board to take a look at them. And they will also review them and vote on them, and then they come back to us again. So it's just a vote on first reading tonight. It's referred to the planning board so that they can make their decision, and it will come back to us again for a final vote. So it's not a situation where the planning board can't make a decision because we've changed something without their inputs. They're very much involved in the process.
Thank you for that clarification.
So bills and claims. I'd like to move bills and claims in the amount of $131,542.39.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Root. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried. Next on the agenda, reports to standing committees. Up to you. Yeah, back to you, Councilman Hapgood.
Thank you, Mayor. I have 8 resolutions, 6 of which I'd like to move as a package. The first, a resolution authorizing the CFO to refund Recreation Department fees. A second resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a warrant for unused parking permit fee. Third, a resolution authorizing the CFO to draw a check for the balance of escrow monies for the tree bond. 4, a resolution to amend an award of contract for the technical upgrades to these council chambers. 5, a resolution to appoint plumbing subcode official and inspector. And 6, a resolution to read the municipal budget by title.
May I have a second? Second by Councilman Mackey. Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried.
Next, I'd like to make a motion for the final adoption of the 2023 Special Improvement District budget.
May I have a second? Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Council members Hapgood,
Yes.
Parmalee,
Yes.
LaGripa,
Yes.
Katz,
Yes.
Mackey. Yes. Contract,
Yes.
Dardia,
Yes.
Root,
Yes.
Mayor Rindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
And lastly, I'd like to make a motion for the final adoption of the 2023 municipal budget.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Dardia. Any discussion?
Mayor, I'd just like to take a moment to thank our town administrator and our town CFO in particular for all the hard work that goes into the budget every year. And it's the public sees, a glimpse of it at the very beginning of the process, but it even starts before then. So this is really 6 months of work that goes into the budget every year. And as the chair of the committee, I'd also like to thank the other committee members for all their participation and a lot of meetings that happened over the first quarter and into the second quarter. So thank you very much. It's a great budget, and I'm very happy to be voting on it tonight, hopefully positively, as we do the roll call. So
And thank you to you too for all your work in leading it. So, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Havegood,
yes.
Parmalee,
Yes.
Agrippo,
No.
Katz,
Yes.
Mackey. Contract,
Yes.
Dardia,
Yes.
Root,
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion has carried. Next is the Code Review and Town Property Committee. Councilman Parmalee.
Thanks, Mayor. First, I'd like to move a resolution for a place-to-place liquor license transfer.
May I have a second?
Second?
Second by Councilman, who was that, LaGrepo? Any discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried.
All right, next, I'd like to move General Ordinance Number 2023-13 on first reading, an ordinance establishing a Historic Preservation Commission and providing for the designation and preservation of historic districts and historic landmarks in the town of Westfield.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Mackey. Any discussion? Please.
Mayor, I'd just like to say, this, as a liaison for historic preservation, I think this is a lot of great stuff. I just wish I've seen more of this with One Westfield Place as far as taking into accountability as far as the aesthetics of the town and the Sophia, the historic home on that property. Hopefully that gets restored. So I am for the historic preservation, but I would like to have seen more done with the One Westfield Place going forward.
Okay, may I have a second? Oh, well, that's on discussion. Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Hopgood,
Yes.
Parmalee,
Yes.
Agrippo,
Yes.
Katz,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Contract,
Yes.
Dardia,
Yes.
Root,
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried. And I know I mentioned Jenny Jaruzelski there before as Vice Chair of the Historic Preservation Commission, but we certainly wouldn't be doing any of this tonight if it wasn't for the work of you and the commission and what you guys have brought to the table and your commitment to it. So just can't thank you and want to make sure that you and your efforts are acknowledged. So thank you. Okay, Councilman Parmalee.
All right, thanks. Next, I'd like to move General Ordinance Number 2023-14 on first reading, an ordinance designating 3 Stoneleigh Park, shown on the Town of Westfield tax map as Block 4207, Lot 20, is a historic landmark and modifying the zoning map.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Contract. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Hopgood,
Yes.
Parmalee,
Yes.
Agrippo,
Yes.
Katz,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Contract,
Yes.
Dardia,
Yes.
Root,
Yep.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
I'd also like to move General Ordinance Number 2023-15 on first reading, an ordinance designating 5 Stoneleigh Park, shown at the Town of Westfield tax map as Block 4207, Lot 18, as an historic landmark and modifying the zoning map.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Root. Any discussion? And I just would like to mention, at the next council meeting, when we adopt these ordinances, we'll provide a little bit more history, and maybe Jenny and others could come up and give a little bit of background on the houses when they actually get adopted. So please call the roll. Or we don't, where were we? Yes, please call the roll.
Councilmembers Hopgood,
Yes.
Parmalee,
Yes.
Agrippo,
Yes.
Katz,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Contract,
Yes.
Dardia,
Yes.
Root,
Yes.
Mayor Brindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
The next, I'd like to move General Ordinance Number 2023-16 on first reading, an ordinance designating 18 Stoneleigh Park, shown in the Town of Westfield tax map as Block 4209, Lot 7, as an historic landmark and modifying the zoning map.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Mackey. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Hapgood,
Yes.
Parmalee,
Yes.
Regrippo,
Yes.
Katz,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Contract,
Yes.
Dardia,
Yes.
Root,
Yep.
Mayor Bindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
Next up, I'd like to move General Ordinance Number 2023-17 on first reading, an ordinance to amend the land use ordinance of the Town of Westfield in regard to the definition of bay window.
May
Second.
I have a second by Councilman Dardia. Any discussion?
Sounds like a movie.
It's a Hitchcock.
In a world.
Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Hapgood,
Yes.
Parmalee,
Yes.
Regrippo,
Yes.
Katz,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Contract,
Yes.
Dardia,
Yes.
Root,
Yes.
Mayor Bindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
I'd like to also move General Ordinance Number 2023-18 on first reading. This one's an ordinance to amend the land use ordinance of the Town of Westfield in regard to the definition of building eave height.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Katz. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Hapgood,
Yes.
Parmalee,
Yes.
Regrippo,
Yes.
Katz,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Contract,
Yes.
Dardia,
Yes.
Root,
Yes.
Mayor Bindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
Next up, I'd like to move General Ordinance Number 2023-19 on first reading. This one's an ordinance to amend the land use ordinance of the Town of Westfield in regard to the definition of swimming pool.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Contract. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Hapgood,
Yes.
Parmalee,
Yes.
Regrippo,
Yes.
Katz,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Contract,
Yes.
Dardia,
Yes.
Root,
Yes.
Mayor Bindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
Then next, I'd like to move General Ordinance Number 2023-20 on first reading, an ordinance to amend the land use ordinance of the Town of Westfield in regard to conditional uses.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Root. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Hapgood,
Yes.
Parmalee,
Yes.
Regrippo,
Yes.
Katz,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Contract,
Yes.
Dardia,
Yes.
Root,
Yes.
Mayor Bindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
Next up, I'd like to move General Ordinance Number 2023-21 on first reading, an ordinance to amend the land use ordinance of the Town of Westfield in regard to retaining walls.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Mackey. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Hapgood,
Yes.
Parmalee,
Yes.
Regrippo,
Yes.
Katz,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Contract, Dardia,
Yes.
Root,
Yes.
Mayor Bindle.
Yes, this motion is carried.
And then last up for me, I'd like to move General Ordinance Number 2023-22 on first reading, an ordinance to amend the land use ordinance of the Town of Westfield in regard to building design standards.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Mackey. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Hapgood,
Yes.
Parmalee,
Yes.
Regrippo,
Yes.
Katz,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Contract,
Yes.
Dardia,
Yes.
Root,
Yes.
Mayor Bindle.
Yes, this motion is carried. Next to the Public Works Committee, Councilman Katz.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to move General Ordinance Number 2023-12 on first reading. An ordinance by the Town Council amending the Town Code of the Town of Westfield to repeal and replace Chapter 8, Article 4, Stormwater Control and Floodplain, to adopt flood hazard maps and to designate a floodplain administrator.
May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Mackey. Any discussion? Please call the roll.
Councilmembers Hapgood,
Yes.
Parmalee,
Yes.
Regrippo,
Yes.
Katz,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Contract, Dardia,
Yes.
Root,
Yes.
Mayor Bindle.
Yes, this motion is carried. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Councilman Mackey, second.
Second.
Root, all in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? This motion is carried, and this meeting is adjourned.